Welcome once again to Leto's Law. Here's Steve Leto.
I mentioned before that I'm not going to shoot a lot of original content for the Vault. Most of the original content's going to go up on my main channel. Over here is where I put all the stuff that I pulled down off of the channel or wasn't appropriate or was off topic. But from time to time, I might be inspired to come out here. And I'm almost to 5,000 subscribers on this channel. When I hit 5, I'm going to do a live stream. So that's coming up. But in the old days, I used to do videos where I'd gripe about stuff. Either weird questions I got or weird complaints I got or people arguing with me about silly things. And I used to do those videos, and I think I may have posted one or two of them already on this channel. If not, I'll go find some. And I had people who told me they liked those videos, and people tell me they hated those videos. Here's the deal. I liked making them. So I'm going to make some videos like that over here. I'm just going to put them up over here because I know they won't do well on my main channel. But last week, I had two different people explaining to me how the law works. And I did this story about the license plate covers New Jersey. And they had written hundreds of thousands of tickets for license plate frames. And it got to the point where the legislature they're working on changing the law because they think that it's just a dumb thing that cops are writing people tickets for. I got an email from a guy who said, Steve, I don't know if you know this or not, but when a police officer pulls you over for something and gives you a ticket, if you go to court on that ticket, you can meet with the prosecutor and do a thing called a plea bargain. And if you plea bargain, they'll oftentimes throw out the primary offense for which you've been brought to court and let you plead to something that you didn't even do, such as a license plate frame. So it's important to have something like that on the books. And he said by removing that law from the books, you're actually going to be hurting everybody out there who used to plea bargain. And I wrote the guy back and I said, I'm an attorney. I don't know if you picked that up. I mention it from time to time. I've handled over 1,000 traffic tickets in my career. Think about that, 1,000 traffic tickets. And I know what plea bargaining is. And you understand that they weren't throwing the law out entirely, they're simply rewriting it, meaning that they could still use it as a plea bargaining tool. Doesn't matter what the definitions of the law are. There's still going to be a law in the books. Just is going to change how harsh the law was with respect to when it could be enforced or not. But number two, there's always 0-point offenses out there. 5 over, double parking, obstructing traffic. But the idea that a guy actually sent me a lengthy email explaining to me how plea bargaining works. And I understand that's kind of like Austin Powers, but Dr. Evil. Plea bargaining. So I got that going for me. I also got 2 or 3 people who wrote to me after I talked about whether you own the airspace above your property. And I've had 2 or 3 people explain to me about how the FAA regulates drones as if I don't know these things. Now, I'll grant you that many people wouldn't assume that I know a whole lot about drone law, but I am an attorney. And I had a guy send me a note and give me this dissertation, I'm guessing, a couple thousand words, on how, Steve, I don't know if you know this or not, but the FAA regulates drones and they require you to have a license for your drone if you're using it for a commercial purpose. You might not know that. And I wrote the guy back and I'm just curious, what state do you practice law in? I'm curious. And the guy goes, I'm not an attorney. And I said, so you're not an attorney, but you're telling me about drone law. And the guy goes, yeah, what do you know about it? Well, this is something I don't think I've ever mentioned before on video. A client of mine was the first or second person, I believe in the state of Michigan, licensed by the FAA to fly a drone commercially. The reason I know that, I handled the paperwork for him. And my client came to me and said, Steve, the FAA just came out with this thing. I got to get licensed if I want to do commercial stuff with my drone. And I said, okay. And he goes, can you help me with it? And I said, what are you talking about? I don't do FAA drone law. And he said, no, Steve. Here's the deal. He goes, I can show you what I need to fill out, and I simply need your guidance in filling it out, and then we submit it. I said, you know something? Okay, I'm bored. So he sends me the application, whatever they call it. It's been a few years. But we kick this thing back and forth and file it with the FAA. The license gets granted. My client calls me up and says, Steve, congratulations, I got my license. I said, dude, congratulations to you. You're the one with the license. He goes, thank you. And so now he uses his drone commercially. And almost immediately, I started getting contacted from people around the country saying, I understand you helped this guy get a drone license. Can you help me? And I didn't realize, but apparently the documentation that you file to get a license with the FAA, some portions of it must be public or publicly accessible, because people were contacting me saying they saw my name on the application for the license for my client. And I turned them all down. I said, this is not what I do for a living. It's simply something I helped a friend with, but go do what you got to do. But this guy was explaining to me that the FAA requires a license to fly a drone commercially, and you might not know that. And I wrote him back and I said, well, actually, I do know that because I helped a client of mine get a license. And the weird thing is, I will write back to people, something like that, and they don't even respond. And if you wrote me something that was that ignorant, and I responded to you, it seems to me it would make more sense for you to write me back and say, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Have you ever mentioned that? And I'd say, no, I've never mentioned it. Never mentioned it in a video. Never have, until now. So here we are. I did the story about the medical bills and how somebody went to the hospital and they were told these surgeries you're about to undertake are going to cost you out of pocket $1,337. And it turns out this woman's insurance was not in network, as they say. So they wound up sending her a bill for like $300,000. And I was talking about how in every field of endeavor out there, you can get an estimate and be told in advance what it's going to cost you. I mean, you get a menu at a restaurant. Here's what your food's going to cost you. And somehow a hospital can't tell you what it's going to cost you when you go into for surgery. And I had a guy go, Steve, 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 you don't tell your clients what you're going to charge them at the front end of a case, do you? I wrote back and said, yeah, I do. How does somebody on the internet know what my fee agreement is with all the clients I've had in my 31-year career? And the way Lemon Law works, the Lemon Law says if you're a prevailing party, you can make the defendants pay your attorney fees on your behalf. So my retainer agreement with my clients says you, the client, will never pay me anything. I will simply get paid by the defendants. And a court, if we go to trial, will award us statutory fees. So I tell my clients up front, you ain't paying me nothing. And again, I commented, because that was a comment under a video. I commented in response to that guy, and he never responded back. You don't tell your clients in advance what it'll cost them. Yes, I do. What? Huh? I did the story where I was talking about the word row versus row, and I said jokingly that it was used on The Simpsons when Homer was describing a show on PBS shot in England where the characters, when they're not having a go with a bird, are having a row with a winker. I had three different people either comment or email me and say, Steve, you need to look that word up. And I responded to all of them going, what do you mean I need to look it up? I know what it means. I need to look it up. And in conversations, I don't know if all three of them wrote me back. They go, but Steve, it's obscene. You swore in a video. You said wanker. And I had a guy send me, a diatribe, a lengthy manifesto on what wanker means and where it came from. And I go, yeah, but if you look it up in a dictionary, as you suggested I do, look it up, it simply says it's an insult. It's British origin. And it may have meant something a long, long time ago, but it's changed meanings over the years. It's no longer a swear word. And I had somebody say, well, how do you know that? Well, because it was in prime time on Fox television on Simpsons. And if it was a swear word, they couldn't do that, could they? So the Simpsons can say it during prime time. I can say it on YouTube. And guess what? YouTube let me say it. So I had a guy arguing with me going, but Steve, you understand where wanker came from? I go, yeah, I completely understand what it means originally and now. And he goes, so you can't say it. It's dirty. I said, do you remember a movie by Steve Martin called The Jerk? The Jerk? You've heard a phrase when you call somebody a jerk? Where do you think that came from? And in case you're curious, because I've had at least one of these people say, I don't know what you're talking about. That was originally the first of two words, which meant exactly the same thing as wanker. But when you drop the word off, O-F-F, from the end of the two-word phrase, and you just say the name of the movie that Steve Martin was in, it's no longer considered obscene or a swear word. But three different people said, you need to look that up, without looking it up themselves. And the weirdest thing is I will have people send me an email with a big description of a question they have that I can Google and get the answer to in 10 seconds. And it's like, do people not understand what Google is or how Google operates? I had somebody send me a note the other day that said, Steve, I'm trying to find where this one particular organization in the government gets its authority from. Where did it come from? It's a three-letter organization. If you type those three letters into Google, the first hit comes up. It's the homepage of that organization. Top right-hand corner, history. Hit history, goes, here's where we came from. Took less than 5 seconds. It took me longer to respond back to the guy and say, why don't you Google it? Seriously. I mean, I appreciate the fact that people think, hey, I'll ask Steve Leto, he'll know. I appreciate that. That's a compliment. Thank you very much. Google also knows. Okay? So ask Google first. If you're then confused, call me. I had a guy get upset because I said, you can pull your phone out and film what's happening. And the guy's like, there is no film in your camera. There's no film in your phone. There's no film in your phone. So, first of all, film is a verb. Film something. And if you look film up in the dictionary, one of the definitions is to shoot a movie. So I'm going to keep saying film. And that's what you do with your smartphone. You film something. Absolutely you film something. And it's simply a word that's evolved over time, such as dial a phone. Will you dial the number for me? Oh, there's no dial on this. How do I dial it? Dial the phone. And while you're doing that, I'll film you with my phone, okay? And finally, I've got to tell you that in the video I talk about the UCC Article 1, 308, I believe, about whether you can sign something under duress or with all rights reserved. And I did that video in specific response to people who think that you can sign any document you get out there in such a way that by signing it that way, you're pulling a fast one on somebody. So if a police officer were to write you a ticket and say, here's the ticket, sign and receive sign and prove that you got it. And then what you do is you sign all rights reserved under 1308, and that'll teach them a lesson. And I pointed out in the video on 1308 that that's actually a hoax because 1308 is a part of the Uniform Commercial Code and does not apply to non-commercial transactions. And in fact, it's explicitly only in application to things covered by the Uniform Commercial Code. And I had someone 2 days ago respond to that video and go, check that guy out. You'll notice that as he's talking, he's making all kinds of Masonic symbols with his hands. And so you can actually disregard everything he's saying because he's a Freemason. And all attorneys, by the way, are Freemasons, right? So while I'm talking right now, I'm sure you may have noticed by now that I'm doing the Masonic free symbol language. And I'm basically telling an entirely different story with my hands. The person was serious. They actually said, check this guy out. While he's talking, he's using his hands. And he's making secret hand signals for the Masons. Now, I've known Freemasons. I've spoken to Freemasons. I've shaken hands with Freemasons. I am not a Freemason. I even did a video called I'm Not a Freemason. However, the idea that there's a secret society out there with secret hand signals, and they're so secret that other people on the internet know all about them, but the people who are making the hand signals don't understand that other people understand the hand signals. So I chalked it up to paranoid schizophrenia. But there you go. That's the list. So from now on, I keep a list on the right-hand side of my desk. And when I get these things, I just write them down, jot them down. And every so often, I'll do a video and say, here are the things lately that have caught my attention. So there you go. In particular, though, it's the people who explain the law to me and people who tell me I need to look words up in the dictionary. While I'm surrounded by dictionaries, and it turns out I'm using the word correctly, and they didn't look it up. Oh, the irony. And yes, I know what the word irony means. And I know it when I see it. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. You can never quit. Winners never quit, and quitters never win.